Put your hands up. I'm not gonna tell you again. Don't come any closer. Don't come any closer. Don't come any closer. I'm gonna tell you right now. Get down! Get down on the ground!
October 9th, 2025 started like any other day at the Chili's restaurant in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Families were enjoying meals, workers were on lunch breaks, and the parking lot was filled with the everyday sounds of a busy restaurant. But that ordinary atmosphere shattered when multiple frightened customers began frantically dialing 911. Their panicked voices reported the same terrifying scene. A man was in the parking lot armed with both a hammer and a knife, and he was threatening anyone who came near him. The fear in their voices made it clear that this was not just an uncomfortable situation, but a genuine emergency that required immediate police response. A Las Cruces police officer received the call and responded quickly to the scene. His body camera was recording as he arrived at the restaurant, initially approaching the building where the reports originated. The officer scanned the area carefully, knowing that somewhere nearby was an armed individual who had already frightened multiple people.
Coming towards me. Put your hands up right now. Put your hands up. I'm not gonna tell you again. Don't come any closer. Don't come any closer. Don't come any closer. I'm gonna tell you right now. Get down! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground!
The officer continued shouting warnings as the distance between them closed. 60 feet separated them initially, but that gap narrowed with each step the suspect took. Law enforcement training teaches officers about the 21-foot rule, a principle that recognizes how quickly an armed suspect can close distance and inflict deadly harm. As the suspect continued his advance, crossing that critical distance threshold, the officer faced a decision that no human being should have to make. When the suspect had closed approximately 60 feet despite repeated warnings, the officer fired 3 shots, striking the man in the chest. The suspect collapsed in the parking lot, and the officer's response showed the humanity behind the badge. He immediately called for emergency medical assistance and began administering aid to the very person who had just forced him to use deadly force. Additional officers arrived within moments, but despite everyone's efforts, the suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. A search of the area revealed both the hammer and a knife, confirming the deadly threat the officer had faced. But the investigation revealed something that made this tragedy even more heartbreaking and raised difficult questions about how we respond to mental health crises. The full story emerged during the investigation and subsequent press conference, led by Police Chief Jeremy Story. The suspect had a documented history of mental illness and had been involved in previous non-criminal encounters with police, including welfare checks and reports of erratic behavior. Even more troubling, earlier that same day he had visited a local gun store asking for the cheapest firearm available, though fortunately he made no purchase. This was clearly a person in crisis, someone whose mental health issues had escalated to the point where he became a danger to himself and others. Chief Story addressed the difficult questions about why less lethal options were not used. His explanation revealed a harsh reality of policing. When an officer is alone facing a lethal threat, there simply are not other options available. With multiple officers, tactics like tasers, beanbag rounds, or tactical positioning become possible. But a solo officer facing an armed suspect who is advancing despite commands has only seconds to respond to save their own life. This tragedy in a Chili's parking lot represents one of the most difficult challenges our society faces: the intersection of mental illness and public safety. The suspect was clearly in crisis. His actions that day showed a person who needed help desperately. But when mental health crisis escalates to armed threats against the public and police officers, the options for a peaceful resolution shrink dramatically. This story should make us think deeply about how we support people with mental illness before they reach crisis points. It should also give us profound respect for police officers, who must make life or death decisions in seconds, knowing they will be judged for months or years afterward. The officer who fired those shots will carry that moment forever, even though every indication suggests he had no other choice.